A lifetime in repeat.
Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Loom, and I'm here today to bring you guys my legendary balance gear and deck setup video. So let's get right into it. Starting with the hat, I use the Waterworks hat, Hood of Judgment. I strongly prefer it to, its alternatives, the House of Scales headdress and the Glendemming's gear. I just feel like it's significantly better and offers more well-rounded stats, especially for this strategy. For the robe, I use the Cape of Judgment, the Waterworks robe. I would personally suggest that you farm House of Scales for the House of Scales raiment, the robe that offers the mana burn card, but if you can't, I've been pretty successful with the Cape of Judgment. Like, it's worked out pretty fine for me. But I would love to have it, I just haven't had the time to farm for it yet. And so yeah, I'm sticking with the Cape of Judgment for now. For the boots, I use the Professor's boots. So this might be a little controversial because I know a lot of legendary balances prefer the Glendemming's boots. But especially before you get to Warlord, I would either use these or the Waterworks boots, or the House of Scales boots. I mean, it doesn't really matter too much. But I prefer these over the Glendemming's boots because they offer, the health outweighs the resist that you're losing, as well as it offers more power pip. It offers crit instead of block, which is kind of a personal preference, and it offers more damage. I feel like for using lore spamming at this level, I feel like it's a lot more worth it to have the damage and the critical that the Professor's boots offer rather than the Glendemming's gear. So yeah, I would personally strongly recommend you go for the Professor's boots, but if you can't, I would certainly check out the other alternatives. The House of Scales boots are fine. I don't have the Waterworks boots, but they're fine too. But yeah, I prefer them over Glendemming's, and I encourage you to try them out. For the wand, I use the Staff of Flashing Blades, the Warlord wand. But before I actually got to Warlord, I used the Sidhe staff. It offers you a lot of power pip and a lot of accuracy, and it puts you over 100% in both accuracy and in power pip, and that's really helpful to know that you'll always be getting a power pip and that you'll never fizzle. It kind of removes a lot of the inconsistency you may experience. So yeah, I personally would try, and it's actually great because it's not a Crowns wand. I mean, it is Crowns, you can buy it in the Crown shop, but you can also farm for it at Mirror Lake. I think I got 2 of them just from doing like 5 or so runs. So yeah, it's not like too rare of a drop, and it's a really good wand, so I strongly encourage you to use it, especially if you're not yet a Warlord. For the dagger, I use the Duelist Fatal Razor, but before I got the Duelist Fatal Razor, I used the other one. I used the level 56 balance wand. It's pretty similar. It offers the damage, and you're gonna want a lot of damage, basically as much damage as you can use for this strategy. So yeah, Duelist Fatal Razor. But if you don't have it, if you haven't done enough tournaments or something, you can always just use the level 56 one. In terms of mastery amulets, I use the Death Mastery. So I did some PvP without the Death Mastery. I think I was using, I was using a health amulet or a life. You can do this strategy with a lot of different amulets. You can do this with a mana burn amulet. You can do this with like a life mastery and stuff, or just like with the regular health amulet. But I'd strongly encourage you to get a Death Mastery if you can afford it. It helps so much to have these like dooms and some sacrifices in your side deck, especially if you're facing someone who heals a lot. It'll help you like tremendously, and it's a very big plus. In terms of the ring, I use the Duelist Daredevil ring. So again, that. But before I got to Warlord, before I got the tickets, I did use this ring. It's kind of like a cheap alternative. It's not much worse. It's only like a little bit worse. But yeah, this is the ring I used before it. For the pet, I use my Flamenco Tocador. Proof triple damage, may cast Infallible Balance Word. So I thought most of this was pretty self-explanatory. Infallible is a really common cast, so I would strongly recommend you get that on like any offensive pet. Proof just to have like a little bit of resist. I have 38 universal. So yeah, and then triple damage. And then I also attached a balance word to it because at level 60 and 65, I'd say a solid like half of your enemies that you'll be facing will be balances, or maybe a little less. But balance is really, really common at this level. And especially with the little extra resist I get from the Professor's boots, it really helps, and I end up having a good amount of resist against balances, 56. So I can feel pretty confident when I'm facing a balance, because I know that like I'll win most of the time, especially if they don't have balance ward themselves. So yeah, like balances are probably going to be like some of your toughest opponents, just because dealing with a lot of lore masters gets very difficult. But having the balance ward and having the professor boots really helps take care of this issue. And so yeah, I end up having a lot of resist, so that's why I chose to attach the balance ward. And yeah, like I said, it's like the most common skill, so if you're gonna use a ward, use that. I don't have a damage mount, I'd choose like a regular mount. In terms of decks, this is another issue because I haven't farmed too much House of Scales yet. I would strongly recommend. It's not that big of a deal, I guess, but there is a House of Scales deck that offers you. I think it's called the House of Scales Array. It offers you like it's like this one, but it offers you a little bit more sideboard space, and it also gives you 1 extra accuracy, which I don't think is too big of a deal. Especially like you should have well over 100 if you jewel your deck, which I did. So yeah, I basically crafted this deck. I crafted it so I could have the triangle jewel and I could still have a lot of like sideboard space and stuff. So now let me actually just go over my stats really quick. So yeah, I have 96 damage and balance, which is pretty good. 38 universal resist, 56 to balance, which is pretty solid. 19 accuracy. I could have a little bit more, but I mean it's over 100 anyway, so I don't really bother. 233 crit. I have 41% crit. That's another thing I really like about the balance boots. Having this much crit kind of encourages, not really encourages, but it helps out a lot, especially in such an offensive strategy. Getting like I critical solid like half of my hits, and being able to like add that 30% damage is like very helpful. My block is kind of low, 82. That's because I used the Professor's boots over the Glendemming's boots, but I don't think this is too big of a deal. If you feel like you really want more block instead of the crit, then you could use the Glendemming's boots, but yeah, that's personal preference, I guess. I have 12% pierce, which is a very good amount. So I have the pierce jewels on both my ring and my dagger. Currently, there's a sale on the jewel packs. So I did end up opening a few to try and get the 3% jewels. I opened up maybe $10 worth, or maybe a little less, so I can get the 3%. Having the 12% pierce really helps a lot. So yeah, my incoming and outgoing, it's just a little bit. It's pretty standard. So now let's get into the deck setup. So in terms of my normal deck, most legendary balances have a pretty similar deck setup, but yeah, this is mine. I carry almost max stun blocks because some of my toughest opponents are myths. Because getting that double stun from Medusa, like it stuns you for 2 rounds, and that becomes really difficult to deal with. I carry max towers. It's self-explanatory. I carry 2 volcanic shields. I would carry more, but I also carry elemental shields, so it's not too tough. It's pretty okay. This helps when you're dealing with legendary storms, because sometimes those can be really difficult to deal with. I carry cloaks. Part of the reason I carry cloaks is for most of the main reason for carrying cloaks is so I can cloak these balance spells, because like I said, I face a lot of balances. And if you didn't know, if you use a balance spell without a cloak, it ends up adding a dispel shield, and that makes it so you can't dispel them again. But this way, if you cloak them, it actually doesn't add the dispel shield, so I could basically just spam balance the spells if I needed to. I carry 4 gargantuans as well as 4 lore masters in my main deck. This kind of helps if I'm trying to stack weaknesses with lore masters, or if I just if I can pull them from my main instead of my side deck, it's it's a pretty nice plus. I carry 5 dooms. I think it's as much as this deck allows me to carry. Yeah, 5 dooms. I carry 4 infections. Because like I said before, it's to help to prevent people from healing. 2 reshuffles. I haven't yet to use a reshuffle at all in any of my matches, but I still kind of carry. I usually just discard them, but I still carry them just in case I do end up facing a long match. One of the good things about this strategy is your matches will end within 10-15 rounds. You'll never have super duper long matches, and that's a big plus. So yeah, I carry 3 spirit shields, in case I face these are mostly for death wizards and the occasional life wizard. Yeah, these really help against death, so to use Dr. Vaughn's and vampire to heal and stuff. So yeah, I would definitely recommend. These are mostly for storms, like I said before. You're not going to be shielding too much against fires or ices, but it's always nice to have these to prevent storms from hitting you for a ton of damage. I carry max weaknesses, which is 7, just because They're very, like, weaknesses are great. For 0 pips, there's so much you can do with them. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I don't actually have Availing Hands in my deck. And that's because I kind of messed up my training points, so I did not actually end up, I think it's Grizzleheim you have to do to get them. So I did not actually do it. So I don't have Availing Hands, which is the reason I use this pet. This pet gives you 3 Availing Hands cards, which is just, like, if you have the card, you don't have this pet, I would just carry, like, 3 Availing Hands. This has been, like, more than enough. I've never been, like, at a loss for a heal. So now let's hop into my TC deck. So this deck is, just want to fix it really quick. Okay, well, there would be another Lore Master in this deck. So this deck is pretty standard. A lot of this was inspired by Sophia Coin. So this is the non-supernova deck. Since I don't actually have Sunyans on this character, I don't farm them, so I don't have supernovas. But you know, it's never really been too big of a deal. So I have 2 freeze cards. This is just enough, so like where you can pull it pretty consistently, but it doesn't like clog up your deck. So yeah, 2 freeze cards, 2 triages for when you face those like really heavy blade stackers. You don't really need them that much if your pet is enfeeble, but it's still really nice, like especially if you're going first against someone who has Burning Rampage and stuff. 1 infal because I have infal on my pet and I have it in my main deck, so there isn't really much of a reason for me to carry a lot of these. I just carry the 1 in case I'm like pulling in my TC deck and I can't find anything. You know, the infal is just like a nice thing to pop really quick. I carry 4 Dooms because having a Doom up is really important, especially if you're facing like a Life Wizard who has a lot of resist and has a lot of incoming and outgoing. Because if they get to change the bubble, even for like 1 round, they'll Satyr and instantly bring themselves up like 3,000 health. So I always make sure I have a Doom in my hand, or I can pull one very quickly if I need to. I carry 2 Sacrifices. This was something I saw Sophia Coin doing, and I thought it was a pretty nifty idea. You know, the 2 Sacrifices really help for those situations where you need an immediate heal, and Availing Hands just won't do it for you. Like, you need to heal like that instant. You can't really wait those rounds for the DOT. I carry 3 Judges. I actually end up using these a lot. So, because first of all, they do more damage than a Scorpion at 2 pips, and a lot of the reason I end up using these is against like, so I'm at 1,000 rating right now, meaning I face a lot of like level 80s and 90s, not as much 90s, but a lot of 80s, and a lot of them don't really know what they're doing, and it really helps if I can just stack up pips and hit them with like a big Judge, or if I'm facing even like another Warlord and they're at like 2k health and I have like enough pips for an open Judge. You know, they come in handy a lot. I like to carry 3 of them, so they're pretty easy to pull. So yeah. Now for the most important part of the deck, the Lore Masters. You know, as legendary balance, you're gonna definitely want to have this. You're gonna want to craft it, or maybe farm for it, but I definitely recommend crafting it. I've done both, and you know, farming for it is very difficult, and you likely won't get it. So yeah, I carry 10 Lore Masters. So yeah, I changed up this deck a little bit. I used to use this deck because I didn't need the accuracy, because I used to use Sidhe staff, so I didn't need the accuracy jewel, so I just used this one. So I had more sideboard space, but I kind of changed it around since then. So yeah, I would have another Lore Master here. So yeah, so I'd have 10 Lore Masters. That should be more than enough for you to pull them like pretty consistently. And that should be enough to even take down those like big tanky wizards. So yeah, I carry 6 Scorpions. Yeah, I carry 6. These are really good minion killers. That's like their main purpose. They like when we're facing someone who likes to use minions, especially with my damage, this ends up doing like 900 or like maybe 850. So yeah, definitely have Scorpions in your deck. Yeah, that's my setup. That's my PvP. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day and goodbye.
To my one love in Los Angeles, and she drive me crazy, can't handle this, cause I know deep down she's scandalous. Like, I never did plans for this, and